Good morning, good afternoon, good day, whatever it is. In honor of Robert, we're starting a couple of minutes late because Robert was never on time for anything. So this is going to be a celebration of life. Yes, it is a memorial. Yes, Robert is here with us. And I want to thank those of you who are here, who are able to be with us today. I want to thank the many people who are watching online, many of his friends in other parts of Oregon and California and in Arizona who are tuned into this. Thank you for all the photos you sent me so that we could share with everybody. Because many of us knew Robert now. We didn't know Robert as a young man. And it's fun to see these images of him as a boy. And yeah. And so those will be going, just kind of streaming through this so that people can see those rather than a separate slideshow that happens just once. But I like to start all of my celebrations with a poem called The Ship, because it speaks so beautifully to me of what this is about. I'm standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the morning breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She's an object of beauty and strength, and I stand and watch her until at length she's only a speck of white cloud just where the sea and the sky meet and mingle with each other. Then at my side someone exclaims, "There, she's gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that's all. She is just as large in hull and mast and spar as she was when she left my side, and just as able to bear her load of living freight to the place of her destination. Her diminished size is in me, not her. And just at that moment, when someone at my side says she's gone, there are other eyes watching for her coming and other voices ready to take up the glad shout. There she comes! And that is dying. Just as a bend in the river doesn't mean the river ceases flowing beyond what we can see, so we realize that life does not begin with a person's arrival on earth nor end when departing from it. Life is a continuum, and in this time of celebration of life, we honor the ongoing of a soul while remembering his experience of learning and growing in this human experience. We're here today to honor Robert Coates for the role he played in our lives and to celebrate his life here on this planet. The fact that you are here today in person and online is a tribute to Robert, a testimony to the way he lived his life and the gifts he brought to each of you. Each of us is here today because in some way, great or small, for some length of time, short or long, Robert Coates brought something of value into our lives. Something good happened to every person here because you know Robert. He's part of your experience. I'm not merely saying that he lives on in your memory, though that's true. I'm saying there's something much more than that. He lives on as part of you, finding expression in some part of your life, your thoughts, your words, your actions. By now, it's probably so much a part of your own good nature that you'd have to pause and search, perhaps very deeply, to remind yourself where it came from. When people leave us, the essence of who they are always remains in our hearts. Knowing that this memory is one of inspiration, of joy, and of peace, let us join in this tribute, not with a sense of irretrievable loss, but knowing that out of this experience comes something very precious, something that will be, to everyone here today, a guiding star and a promise. So we celebrate Robert's life as he's moved on to the next great experience. And we honor him by honoring the life in this world that is left to us. Let today serve to remind us that life is to be lived. Life is to be celebrated. And we are here to celebrate Robert's expression of life. Robert Allen Coates was born April 14, 1961 in Tucson, Arizona, and made his transition on December 4, 2022 at his home in Springfield, California. A gravestone lists 2 dates, usually with a dash in between. Those dates are only single moments in time, bookends to a life. It is in the dash in between those 2 dates that everything we hope for and dreamed of is lived out. It is that dash that represents all the time he spent here on earth. And we're here today to celebrate that dash for Robert. We do not know, no one seems to remember the name of Robert's father. And so I cannot give you his name, but Robert was the youngest of 4 children born to his father and Gloria Coates. He is survived by his siblings, Barbara and David, as well as many who have loved and supported him over the years. He is preceded in death by his parents and his sister Linda. This is just a genealogy of sorts and doesn't tell us really much about the person that Robert was and how he chose to live out his dash. And I'd like to share some of what his friends wanted you to remember about him. I learned a lot from his friends in Arizona, and I want to thank them for sharing their stories so readily and deeply, and for the insight it gives into Robert and why and how Robert was the way Robert was. Robert got off to an early start in life. He was purposefully delivered prematurely at a Mayo clinic because his mother Gloria had a brain tumor and required treatment that could not be done while she was pregnant. So he was brought to life basically at the point where they were pretty sure he could survive so that his mother could go under therapy. She did not ever recover from her treatment, but lived a not well life, and then finished her years in an essentially vegetative state in a hospital until her death in the late 1980s. Robert's father was an executive in a large business enterprise that called him away from home for long periods of time, so his early family life was far from normal or easy. Robert lived in Tucson throughout his childhood. He attended Canyon de Oro High School, where he graduated in 1979. He took some classes at the University of Arizona, but did not complete a course of study there. Over the years, his OCD and ADD hindered him in following through on things. As a young adult, he worked as a computer specialist for Arizona Feeds. Computers became an effective and safe way for him to use his tendencies to his advantage. At one point, he moved to California, where he worked for a direct marketing guru, Ken Roberts. Robert really admired Ken Roberts and developed his skills there and aspired to create his own business, just similar to what Ken had done, and that was always his dream. He was going to start this big marketing thing. That was always his vision. After his job with Ken Roberts ended, Robert moved to Oregon and stayed in similar roles working with online marketing and research. He was a certified night owl, so online discoveries were perfect for him. Robert was friendly, smart, and loved to be helpful. Many of his friends attest to how he would see a post they made online, and Robert would then contact him with a full trove of solutions he had carefully researched for them. He had great intentions, and his ADD kept him from keeping track of things. He once actually misplaced a brand new toaster still in the box under all the stuff he had laying around in his apartment. He had good jobs in the early part of his adulthood, but had no sense of how to manage his money and often needed help making his rent payments. He loved music, and the Eugene music scene was a perfect spot for him. He would promote artists who were having live concerts, and he would do everything he could to help up-and-coming folks get some recognition. Robert had a very droll sense of humor and sometimes could surprise us with his insights into human behavior. Like all of us, he had his faults as well, but we are here to celebrate the beautiful, caring, slightly battered soul that he was and is. He was in the process of getting ready to move at the end of the year and made arrangements to stay with friends, Jill and Charles, for a while when he suddenly stopped communicating. After some calls, it was discovered that he had died of natural causes in his room at the motel where he was staying. It is with a deep sense of love and loss that we say goodbye to Robert Coates. Though he stepped out of our vision, He still lives in our hearts. The word death in Aramaic, which is the language that was spoken by Jesus, means not here, present elsewhere. This definition confirms my personal belief in the ongoingness of life. God is life, the Alpha and the Omega, with no beginning and no end. As we've been told by great spiritual teachings, upon bodily death we are returned to God. For those of us who are left behind, it's hard to think of anything good in death, but the truth of Robert and of each of us is that we are all birthless, deathless, and changeless. Each one of us is a spirit that chose to play here in this time and space continuum for a while, and then when it's time, we go home. A caterpillar builds a cocoon and dies, that it might emerge as a butterfly. With death, we too are born to a new life. Today is a sad day, but it's also one of the greatest celebrations for Robert, the end of one cycle and the beginning of the next. Each one of you has unique memories of Robert, memories that would help you with your grief. I know he would like you to share your memories to help each other, and the greatest gift we can give to him is gratitude. So I would really like to give you this time to share. I know Suzanne needs some time to get up here. So if we've got, while Suzanne's coming up, does anyone else who'd like to share? Anyone prepared? Go ahead, Radiant, come on up. If you'll come up and use this microphone, please, so the people at home are able to hear you.
So many of you are in the teaching of science of mind and understand a little of how treatment and manifestation work. So there was a period of time when there was a huge, you guys have all probably heard the story. If you have, you could step out and go to the bathroom for a minute. But it's a great opportunity for me to tell this story again. So at one point, the Dalai Lama was coming to Eugene, and I was so very excited to just be in the space with the Dalai Lama. And I had talked to Robert about how excited I was to go see the Dalai Lama, and he was like, Radiant, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see the Dalai Lama. You know, I'm like, nope, it's on my calendar, I'm going, it's gonna be a thing. And for weeks, like every Sunday we would talk about it. The tickets came out, and all of the tickets sold within 30 seconds. They were all gone. And the next Sunday, Robert comes to me and he says, Radiant, how are you going to go see the Dalai Lama? All of the tickets are sold out. I don't care about that. I know there's got to be a way. And he would shake his head, and he's like, all right, Radiant, I'm waiting. I'm watching to see how this is going to work for you. And I'm like, and the whole time I just had this deep inner knowing that I was going to go see the Dalai Lama. A week before the Dalai Lama came, someone had given the center some, I think it was like 10 tickets to see the Dalai Lama. They'd given all of the churches in Eugene 10 tickets to see the Dalai Lama. And at that time, Reverend Linda and the board were like, who do we give these tickets to? How do we pick someone? And at that point, we were lucky enough to have 10 people on the board. And so the center elected to have the 10 people on the board, and I was an adjunct member of the board. So I got to go to see the Dalai Lama, and I believe that Robert Coates was also on the board at the time, and he went with me. And it was such a, it's such a manifestation of how all of that, like, we have people in our lives who will tell us that it's not possible, who will try to talk us out of it, and if you just keep the faith and plan it anyway, it will happen. And so he was forever inspired, always talking to me about the next thing I was manifesting, always watching me and telling me how much he loved watching the teaching work through me. And the last thing I will say about Robert is that he was so very passionate about the computers, about internet security, and he talked to me many times about changing my passwords. And in remembrance of Robert, I would like to set a goal for myself to be more diligent about changing my passwords and living a more internet secure life. And I think that if that's the one thing I could do for Robert, that would just mean everything to him. I think that that's would work. Thanks.
Hi. Shoot. When we met Robert here at the church, like several years ago, I think Lila remembers, my husband. By the way, I'm Suzanne. He had a way of just cutting through things and making sure people were safe, like Radiant said about computer, because I'm not tech savvy, but Lila is, and they get in these long discussions. This is what I wrote, what best I can say. We met you, very cool. We miss you. Your sense of humor, very cool, but a bit odd. Your kind heart, funny sense of life goals and adventures. Your advice and knowledge was vast. We feel your presence, your energy. We loved you because of your uniqueness. Haha. And then that's just us, you know, Suzanne and Lila and our kitty cats. He did talk about his dog. He loved that dog. And the black dog you've been shown in the pictures? Yeah. But that's what I could come up with because I'm kind of shaken, you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Is there anybody else who would like to share?
Hi. I was remembering on the drive down from my sister's house in McMinnville that I moved here exactly 10 years ago. And it was at this time of year, it was in January. And one of the reasons I remember that so clearly is that I could see all the lichen and the, all the moss everywhere. And I remember when I moved here, I was really struck by the colors, all the colors. And I had that conversation with Robert. Robert was one of the first friends I had in Eugene. And as soon as I came into the center, he wanted to scoop me up. And he wanted more of a relationship than I did. But we found our middle ground. But one of the things I liked about him and that I have learned to love about him is just the huge heart of his. And, when I first got here, I moved from Missouri, southern climate, and I was cold all the time. And I told him, I'm cold all the time. I could not get warm. And he gave me a heater. He gave me a little radiator heater. I still have that radiator heater. It's sitting right by my bed. So he still keeps me warm. But I do remember that my friendship was so valuable to him. And when Rob and I moved in 2017, he said, well, no matter where you go or what you're doing, I will always be your friend. And he had, texted me and called me since we moved. So I do miss the spirit that was Robert, and that is Robert, and being able to see him. And I just think he was a very special person to be here and to spend time with. So I honor his memory and all of the loving things that he did for me personally and that I saw him do for the center in a tech role and in friendship to others and just in service. So I want to honor that part of him and just love him. So thank you.
All right, we have a few more people. We have time, so so come on up, Jill. Yeah. I'm staying here because this camera doesn't like an empty stage, so.
Okay. This is a little bit hard for me because Robert was a very good friend. We worked together, and he hadn't been doing well health-wise. He was going to come live with us for a while, and I was looking forward to, just giving him some good meals and some good companionship and coaxing him out on walks and things and, just trying to help him get better. It didn't happen, but it was in the plans, and I'm sorry that that didn't get to happen, but there was something that we found, a saying that he had that I want to read to you. It said, "Just put yourself ahead in time, Robert. Pretend that it's next month already, and imagine that the past 4 weeks just totally rocked. Every hope you now possess for the coming weeks had manifested. Every challenge was breezed through. Every cool person stayed cool. Every trickster became an ally. There were happy surprises along the way, and you got plenty of sleep. This is how we roll. Kung Fu the universe." And I really like that because I think it speaks that Robert was trying to live the science of mind. You know, he was trying to live in a positive state and project forward that things were going to be fine and well. And as Linda mentioned, he struggled, you know, he struggled financially. And I used to always tell him, "Robert, you are so smart. You shouldn't struggle like you do. You're too smart to struggle like that." But anyway, there were many things that I loved about him, and so many conversations we had about so many subjects. He was just wise about a lot of things, and he was a night owl, as Linda mentioned. We had many night owl conversations, and he was always there for me when I needed him, and it was a pleasure to know him and work with him, and I miss him, and I feel like he feels a lot better now. He was not feeling well in his body at all. He felt, you know, really tired and ill, and I know he's got to be better now, so I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful that I knew him. We love you, Robert.
I want to thank everybody who has been sharing from the heart and sharing your stories. So I know for some people, it's just not a thing to come up on stage and say something, you know, and I know that. But know in your heart that this is something Robert hears and Robert knows. He knows how much we love him. Even if we'd all been sitting at home watching this online, he knows how much we love him. I want to invite Haley Loren, one of his favorite artists, who has donated her time today to come here and sing a song that she felt. I just said, pick one you think Robert would be happy with, and so I'm trusting she did that.
Thank you. Robert had heard me play this song several times. I think he told me at least once that it was one of his favorite songs that I'd written. And it's called Pieces of Me.
that it stopped with him with his favorite dog, Owu. It's not about what happens to us. It's about how we deal with what happens to us. Each of you, each of us has something in common. We love this man. That alone makes us family. He's our teacher. He's our guide. As long as we remember the joy with which he embraced life, he's alive in each of us. As long as you embrace and we embrace the family around us, he is alive in us. If Robert were standing here right now, what would he say to you? How would he help you get through this? Please open your heart and hear the love that continues to live long after the soul has left the body. This is by Henry Scott Holland. It is in the next room. Death is nothing at all. I've only slipped away into the next room. I am I, and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference in your tone. Wear no forced air or solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play. Smile. Think of me. Pray for me. Why should I be out of mind because I'm out of sight? I am but waiting for you for an interval somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. Let us pray. I invite you now, where you are, to join hands with those near you. A chain, a symbol of the unbroken cycle of life without beginning and without end. As we pray together, knowing the beloved presence of Spirit. How gratefully we acknowledge the gifts we have both given to and received from Robert. Thankful for the healing of our hearts and the awakening of our souls to the truth that sets us free. We release him now to the highest possible expression of new life in spirit. We celebrate the ongoingness of life and the continuity of love within us all, moving serenely into our lives and guided by infinite wisdom and grace. We truly know that all is well, and so it is. And now Lisa who is a dear friend of Robert, has suggested something a tad bit Robert and very irreverent. What I would like us to do is form a circle so that Suzanne can be in it. So if everybody would kind of go over to that side of the room, and we'll form a circle around those chairs. Robert's first dog, when he was a child, they got a Great Dane, and the dog's name had another official grand titled name. But they wound up calling it Uwu, because when he saw all the dog, all he goes, ooh, 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 ooh. And then when he got another dog, he named it Uwu. So we are going to stand in a circle. What I want to suggest is let's